right, Luke, here we are. The grand poobah, the grand finale of it all, our halfway point sort of the year. We started this season back in February. At the end of February, we have not missed a single episode up until this point. Lost season 2 finale, Live Together, Die Alone. So first things first, before we get into the we start breaking this down on plot, because there's a lot that happens in these two parts. Like I said, we're probably going to be doing another full hour for this one. Thankfully, like I said, we are done with the 3-parter finales, but every finale up until the final season is going to have this big mega 2-part finale. So that where there's a lot that happens in it. So first things first, before we get into it, what did you think of this season in its comparison to season 1? The introduction of the hatch, the introduction of, getting into more of the building up the others as more of a threat, getting into more of the lore of the island, the new characters. There was a lot. I forgot how much season 2 throws at you in comparison to season 1, which really does feel like more of a getting to know these survivors on a deserted island kind of premise.
Yeah, I think the first season was definitely establishment. Get to know everyone, get to know their dynamics, and be prepared for their journeys throughout the rest of the show. And this one is okay. We're gonna throw a new group at them, and we're gonna venture deeper into the main conflict, main mystery of the island, and maybe stalled a bit. Like, okay, how long can we really do with this hatch? But luckily, I think we can finally say goodbye to the hatch.
Oh, yes.
I think the audience was probably like a little bit tired of the sitting in this one hatch. I think I was too. But finally, we got some answers, and we have a lot more to look forward to. So I think it's very close to. I think I prefer season 1 a little bit more, but this one is also very very close to there. So
I give this finale a lot of credit in the sense of where I think this is really where Lindelof and Cuse became the most self-aware of. They're like, okay, we've been in this fucking hatch for a whole goddamn season. We got to give this something. They're like, okay, we've been hinting at the Dharma. We've been hinting at like what all these hatches different do. We had the question mark episode where they're like, okay, now we're actually going to like lend some voice to the theory that like, oh, is this a psychological experiment? Is anything going to happen? And again, like in typical Lost fashion, they give you some answers while not giving you all of them. I think my biggest takeaway from this finale, besides the fact that the confirmation that, okay, we saw the sailboat come into frame at the end of last week's episode, like, okay, this is Desmond's, not only Desmond's return to the island, but this is Desmond's kind of reintroduction into the main cast, because the first couple of episodes of this season that we did way back in February and March was really just Desmond was kind of just like, oh, he's just an expository point. He's just kind of like this figure that they have to overcome in order to be like, okay, now they are set at the hatch. Now they are going to be the ones entering in the code every 108 minutes. And now that we have Desmond back, we can finally get into his backstory. We can get into what brought him to the island, because that's what's so interesting too, is that we spent all this time with these tail end survivors, but at the end of the day, it was kind of just like another iteration of what we already went through in season 1, which is where, oh, they all kind of had their own traumas and problems that brought them to Australia. They happen to be on the plane. Now they're on the desert island, kind of getting past their trauma on the island. Desmond, well, yes, like every other character on the show, is also another character going through trauma that he has to overcome via being on the island. Has gotten to the island in a completely different way, has several different motivations, has a different character arc. Like they do a very good job of differentiating and really spending both parts of this 2-part finale primarily with Desmond. Like for all of the stuff going on with like their quest to go and try and rescue Walt from the others and everything, and Locke's kind of loss of faith in the hatch. This really is a Desmond-centered episode, and I really, really got to give it a lot of credit, which is why the way that I structured this is that I broke it up. I covered I want to do all the Desmond backstory first, and then we get into everything that's going on in the island. So real quick, what are your thoughts on Desmond as a character after spending all this time with him and getting to know him through his backstory in this episode?
well, I've spent a lot of time with Henry Ian Cusick as on the 100, where he's kind of he's like a more diplomatic leader type character, and here he's very different. He's more frantic. He's more like I love how he says brother or sister at the end of every sentence. It's just like this little quirk. Like Sawyer has the nicknames that he calls everyone. He has brother and sister. Just really good. And then we'll get to like towards the end of his flashbacks, but everything ties into the island and how everyone is connected. And I'm watching the opening, like Lost tells me exactly what to expect in the opening credits, like guest starring Clancy Brown. I'm like, what?
Yep, you're like, he's back.
Sure, like I wouldn't expect anything different. So yeah, I'm really enjoying Desmond. So you're saying he's now joining the main
Yes,
cast?
he is the main cast.
Yeah.
He is going to be with us for the rest of the show. Him, like I said, him and Ben Linus are the two big season 2 guest stars that those characters then get incorporated into the main cast, and we are going to spend a significant amount of time with them for the rest of the show. The thing that I love too is where like you gotta admire the balls that Lindelof and Hughes have with the show, where they're like, okay, we need a character who's going to be kind of like, for lack of a better word, the Michael Bay exposition character, where he's just every time this guy's on screen, he's going to be running around, he's going to be trying to solve stuff, he's going to be like, no, you guys did this wrong, you have to do it this way, and like, I'm the only one that can fix this, and they kind of made that like an element of his character, where I have a little bit of flaws and nitpicks with how they say it. It gets into a little bit of like 2000s network TV, but they're like, Desmond's whole character flaw that he has to overcome is, oh, he's always running away from something. And I'm like, guys, come on. Like, I mean, at the time I was watching it, I'm like, oh, okay, like, there's a lot of like miscommunication, but now I'm looking back, I'm like, oh my god, like plot contrivance for plot contrivance's sake. Like, oh, he was in prison. Oh, the asshole father-in-law who keeps the fucking letters from them. Oh, she finally tracks him down. She's worth billions, and he's like, oh, I have to win this race so that I can get back to your good. I'm like, God.
Yeah, I was like really, like the race is gonna win back her heart or
I'm
whatever.
like, I understand that you're trying to get this guy to the island without putting him on the plane, but this is a stretch, even by Lost comparisons. Like, what are we doing here? Oh man, I know I pretty much like summed up like pretty much all of Desmond's arc for the first half into that very comedic segment, but I'm just like, guys, what are we doing here? But I thought that was, but the other kind of crucial character that this does introduce as well, besides bringing Desmond back, is Charles Widmore, who is a character who we first see in this finale as well, but he is a character who is going to play a big part once we get into the later seasons with the island. He's kind of like this, one of those like larger overhanging threads, the Thanos, if you will, of Lost. Where
actually this is bugging me. Did Lindelof have like a really bad relationship with his father? Because all the dads in this show are just terrible
without
people.
Without a doubt. I mean, come on, as if that wasn't beyond obvious enough.
Like Jack's dad, the Locke's dad, now Penny's dad.
Yeah,
every dad.
Every dad. And
Jack's
Jack's dad, who's also Claire's dad. So
the son of Claire's kid is also a terrible dad.
Yeah.
Son's dad.
Son's dad. Oh man, there really aren't a lot of good father figures on this show. Is what I'm trying to get. And Lindelof really did not have a good relationship with his dad. I'm so glad that you pointed that out because it's so true. Oh man. Oh god.
Kate's dad.
Kate's dad. It keeps going. It keeps going. Sawyer's dad, who killed his mom because he got conned by Locke's dad.
Like, we need to look into this.
Oh man, the level of psychological problems that Lindelof is inflicting upon his characters. Oh man, Hurley's dad was never even in the. I gotta stop. We're gonna keep going with this.
The whole Michael and Walt thing.
Michael and Walt. Oh my god, Jesus Christ! How did I not realize it until now? Okay. Whew. So. What did you think of what God, this is gonna be like the first like hour of this is just us laughing about Lindelof's terrible relationship with his dad and how he cursed an entire fucking cast of characters with that. Oh man. But okay, so you have the cliche thing where so Desmond gets to LA after getting out of prison, after attempting to be bribed by Charles Widmore to stay away from Penny. That doesn't work. He's gonna enter into Widmore's own race around the world that he is running so that he can impress Penny.
Libby has a boat.
Yes, he runs into Libby, so they're like, okay, we needed to give her like one last thing to do because she was the only one of the. I'm like, how the fuck is this? So Ana Lucia, Echo, Bernard all got backstory episodes, and poor Libby was the best that she got was she was in the mental asylum with Hurley at the same time. Like again. Another classic case of we clearly had something planned for this character. Sucks that we had to write her off so inconveniently. So conveniently she has a boat. And she has a thing of words like, it's my husband died and he named it after me, so he never got to sail around the world. So now I want you to have it.
Strange man I meet in the bakery.
Yes, who I feel a connection with. I will say
that they met on the island.
Yeah, right. That would have been interesting. And then obviously you have the scene also which sets us up for which pays off from the premiere with him meeting Jack running in the stands. And then you have Penny pulls up out of nowhere, and I'm just like, wait a minute, hold on. It would have been one thing if all of this woman's money was tied in with her dad. But you mean to tell, but then you also have the ending sequence of this finale, and I'm like, wait a minute. She had her own money this whole time, and she knows that Desmond is out of jail. And even though she's clearly pissed for him, obviously her father keeping the letter, I mean, like, two major things. One, why did he not tell her that her dad was the one who kept the letters and who kept them from writing? And two, just go with her. She's right there. What do you have to win from her? Like, she's literally standing right there. I just, shit like that is just, it is a symptom of mid-2000s network TV. They did this shit all the time, and I always hated it whenever they did this. I'm like, this is so stupid. This is plot contrivance for the sake of plot contrivance. This that we needed Desmond to get to the island in some way. So the stuff going on with Desmond on the mainland, not as strong as I remember. But once we get to the island, that's where things get more interesting. And I think that's kind of what ties into my point of where it's like Desmond ultimately at the end of the day, while being played very well by Henry Ian Cusick, is a plot character. He is a character that is solely there to move the plot from point A to point B. He was clearly thought of after the fact once we started to get into some of the semantics and the mechanics of the island, because it's more interesting to have a character kind of going through and experiencing the stuff on the island rather than having to invent a whole new character that just randomly ended up on the island just because, because the thing that's established is the problem is that this is still in season 2 before they had really figured out the Dharma initiative. And once they figured out Dharma, that's when they were able to really figure out, okay, this is how characters can kind of go to and from the island without having to be in horrific plane crashes ultimately.
Because right now we haven't seen anyone intentionally be able to get to the island. It's always
exactly. It's always by accident.
Desmond was in a big storm and he ended up on the island. And he can't leave the island anymore.
Exactly. And that also kind of ties into what Ben tells Michael at the end of this episode as well, which is where he's like, once you leave, you won't be able to come back. So we're starting.
You have to be this exact bearing.
Exactly. So they had started to kind of figure out like kind of the geometry, the topography, the cartography of the island, if you will, the geography, but they were still sort of starting to figure it out. And it really wasn't until season 3 and 4 that they would really start to nail that. So Desmond enters into the race. Next thing you know, he ends up on the boat. He ends up marooned on the island after he gets caught up in the storm. He gets brought in by a bunch of people wearing yellow outfits. These are revealed to be Dharma people, and this is where we get Clancy Brown back. Saeed's the American commanding officer who was able to compel Saeed to get the information from his friend. He's randomly on the island now. That's the thing I love is that it's like, man, you never assume anything that a character from a backstory won't end up on the island because they tend to end up on the.
It's like classic. Okay, we need a character here. Who do we have from a past flashback that we can throw?
Right,
and like someone points out, oh, Clancy Brown. Like, okay, sure, that works. We'll figure it out. And
so a couple things of note that are to be brought up here. What's called obviously the orientation video, Desmond asking why there are pieces missing, and the two major things that are referenced here that will come back later on are like I said, so Clancy Brown's character's name Calvin Inman, his former partner Radzinski, who's revealed to have killed himself. He was his partner. Partnered with him on the hatch and obviously has since passed on, and as well the reference to the incident, which we do not know what that is, but that will be revealed to us. I will say it is in season 5, the finale of season 5, the 2-part finale of season 5 is the incident. So we're gonna get into that once we get into it. And then Desmond
we got a while until then.
We got a while.
Although we are at episode 49, I think this was out of 120. So we're almost.
We are trucking through because, like I said, the last 3 seasons, the episode count shrinks dramatically. So that really does make a difference. Season 3 is 1 episode shorter. This season was 24 episodes. Next season 3 is only 23 episodes. So once we get past season 3, like I said, we're gonna start trucking through this, and it's gonna get fast. Very quickly. But the other thing too that Desmond asks him is why he's suiting up in a quarantine suit, and it's so he doesn't get infected. Boom, cut to black, end of part 1. Bringing us into part 2. Now at this point, Desmond has been with Kelvin in the hatch for about 2 years. They have not left the hatch. I'm just trying to think here for a second. I'm like, imagine if you were trapped in that hatch for 2 straight years. Was that predicting of COVID at all in any way, shape, or form with the quarantine, with the infected?
Like predicted COVID.
Man, it's like the amount of things that have like randomly predicted COVID like years before it even happened. Because this is season 2. This is the finale of season 2. So we're in 2006 by this point now. So I'm like, we have a full like about 14, 15 years before we get to it? Like, that's kind of weird. No,
Well,
no.
well, well, you keep saying that my dreams of the island are becoming more and more prophetic. So I think it all goes back to the
It
island.
all goes back to the island is what I'm starting to learn ultimately. Maybe the island is real and tangible out there. So
We
basically,
just can't find it,
we
or at
just can't
least
find it. We're hey, they say it's like, listen, the only way that you can find it is by accident, seemingly. So basically, Kelvin finally coughs up that Radzinski killed himself. He also reveals that Radzinski was the one who basically invented the fake lockdown procedure. So that's now what we know. So the lockdown procedure was ultimately fake. It was a fail. It was a fake failsafe in order to kind of ward off anybody who wandered into the hatch. And Desmond now knows ultimately how to trigger the lockdown procedure, which will obviously come into play once we get to the main line storyline.
and it shows that Kelvin was the one who painted the map,
Yes,
the
exactly.
question mark.
So Radzinski was the one who came up with the map because he obviously, again, he had an eidetic memory, but
Right.
Kelvin was the one obviously pointing it. So again, see, this is what I've been saying from the whole time. Anybody who complains, oh, Lost never answered anything. Bullshit. They answered everything. They just didn't specifically tell you the answers. You had to be paying attention because again, in this, it shows Kelvin is the one who is painting the map that Locke sees that Locke saw in the lockdown episode. So next thing you know, Kelvin and Desmond are arguing about going outside. Kelvin orders Desmond to stay put. Desmond wakes up. He pushes the switch. He discovers Kelvin drunk in an area below near a kill switch. And this is basically where I would say that this is probably the first instance where we finally get a sense of what the island is in a practical sense. So we know that the Dharma Initiative was there to study the weird electromagnetic energy that was pulsating throughout the island, right? And this is basically, again, it's not told us how, but this is the first piece that we get where basically the hatch is sitting on top of this massive conduit of electromagnetic energy, geologically distinct, and pushing the button every 108 minutes is a way of dispersing the energy in natural bursts, almost like I'm trying to think of a good example of it, almost like a mini rupture, like a mini volcano, if you will, essentially.
Just like relieving the pressure, essentially.
Exactly, relieving the pressure. And the kill switch is basically there only for in the off instance of, okay, if the code doesn't get inputted and things start to go haywire and you get the buildup of electromagnetic energy, the kill switch, the key is a way of dispersing it fully across the island. And also this is
Whatever
where,
that means.
right, well we kind of see it sort of ultimately, and that's also where you get the first reference to the incident. So Desmond questions why they don't let all of the energy out all at once, and Kelvin responds with another cryptic answer. It's like, oh, but the question is, would you have the courage to do it? And I'm like, okay, like, this is just okay, clearly, obviously, another instance of they didn't have the answer, so they just got to write in some cryptic bullshit in order to explain it away. Next thing you know, he notices a couple weird things the next day. Kelvin says goodbye to him instead of just like, see you later or whatever. And he also notices a tear in the quarantine suit. And he's like, okay, so the whole risk of being infected, that was all bullshit. He follows Kelvin outside. He sees that he's been repairing a sailboat. Kelvin confronts him being like, oh, I knew that I knew that you were following me. I was a spook in the real world. And he's just like, yeah, he's like, I've got the boat. Let's just go. And he's like, what? He's like, he's like, what about the button? He's like, screw the button. Let's just go. And then Desmond ends up fighting him. He's like, you've been lying to me this whole time, blah, blah, blah. Ends up, classic case. He ends up knocking him over, kills him, knocks his head against the rock, cracks his skull open. Next thing you know, he runs back to the hatch. The trigger has gone down to 0. What's it called? He narrowly manages to input the code just in time. But him letting the code run to 0 may have some greater implications once we get back to it. It ends with him finding a letter from Penny hidden inside this book that he received when he first got out of prison. It's a Charles Dickens book. The letter, he basically like starts throwing away everything in the hatch. He's like, it's all gone, it's all ruined. And then finally he hears Locke banging from the outside and all the way back in Due to Harmony, shines the light on. And the explanation there is kind of a little bit cryptic, but that's kind of Desmond's backstory and like kind of catching us up to the real world. Now, cue in the main island storyline. So kicks us off. Jack, Sawyer, and Sayid swimming towards the boat, discovering Desmond on the boat. Jack asks him why he came back. Desmond states that he was sailing for 2.5 weeks, just ended up back at the island, says that it's a snow globe. There's no escape. He asks Jack if they're still pushing the button. Sayid tells Jack the boat is a stroke of luck. Him and his party can go with Michael towards the others' camp by land so that they can maintain the facade of Michael thinking that it's his idea, despite the fact that they know what he's done. Well, Sayid approaches them by sea, and then he can light the fire, and then they can ambush the others together. Jack wants to tell Kate, Hurley, and Sawyer. Sayid says not to in order to maintain the element of surprise. And then cue us into plotline number 2, which is that in the bunker, John tells Echo not to push the button, to let it run past 0. Echo refuses. When John tries to stop him, Echo restrains him and locks him out. John screams that they're a slave to it, that they will never be free. So already, again, this episode throws this is just the part one, and this episode is throwing a lot at you. So what are we thinking so far as far as the kickoff?
Yeah, it's classic Lost finale. Just like, okay, how can we get as many people involved as possible? Okay, Saeed needs to go to the boat. Saeed can't sail. We're gonna get Jin and Sun involved there.
Yep.
We're gonna have some moving pieces there. On the in the hatch, we're gonna get Echo. We're gonna get Charlie. We're gonna get Desmond and Locke involved in that, and we're gonna have the main group that's going to meet the others, and that really only leaves like what, Claire to sit back.
Yeah,
like,
Claire
but
is
even she has like a brief moment with Desmond where he's like, "Oh yeah, I shot that up for 2 years, did nothing."
I'm just loving the different accents in here because we have Charlie, who's traditional British, Claire, Australian, Desmond, Scottish. I'm like, you just need to throw a little bit of Irish in there, and you'll have the full gamut.
They could have made Ben Linus Irish.
They couldn't make Ben Linus Irish. Like, that's the most Irish name ever possible. You couldn't have gone with that one. Oh, man. Anyways, on the beach, Kate questions whether the others are as primitive as they appear based on the costumes and props that they found in the maternity leave episode. Michael, of course, vehemently denying it because Michael's like, because Michael's basically like, he's like, they're savages. I saw them. You know, once again, Michael's very, very convincing performance that is like, yeah, we can go and take them and rescue my son. And everybody's like, yeah, buddy, we all know. We all know at this point. The group sets off. Saeed requests Desmond's boat. Desmond drops several cryptic clues before saying that he'll need someone to sail it. He recruits Jin and Sun. In the jungle, Kate stops Sawyer from triggering one of Russo's traps. Sawyer also realizes that Jack was telling the truth about them getting caught in the net. It's like, oh, it was like, you actually got caught in the net. He's like, okay. And she's like, why do you care all of a sudden? The group is distracted by a very, very fake looking CG bird that Hurley thinks says his name. It was like, come on.
How many big green birds are there?
Yeah,
like, I had to rewind it a few times. Okay,
yeah, I was like, it almost didn't look real. Again. It looked like a fake instance, but I'm like, oh, it was just like, one of those reincarnation things. Like, oh, Libby reincarnated on the island as a bird, ultimately. And then, Michael, of course, is firing his gun, and that's when he realizes, oh, the clip is empty, and he's like, oh, like, what's going on here? Like that was like our first little indication of that. Charlie stumbles upon Locke crying in the wood. This is a very like come full circle moment where Charlie's like, you in a vulnerable position after you had something really important taken away from you, must suck to feel that way, huh? And he's like, oh, well, when you're done feeling sorry for yourself, he basically tells him that Desmond is back, and Locke's like, oh, really, huh? Saeed, Jin, and Sun take off on the boat. What's it called? You have Desmond telling Claire that the vaccine is a placebo, and they argue about the semantics of raising her children. Then you have Locke meeting up with Desmond, and this is where things start to get good. Basically, Locke tells him about his discovery of the Pearl Station. Tells him about everything that they found there, about the video and the psychological experiment. Desmond is furious. He tells Locke to stop pushing the button. Locke is like, I would like to. The problem is there's somebody else who's taken over and is now vehemently adamant about pushing the button. So Locke tells him that tomorrow they're going to go and see what happens if they let the timer run past 0. In the jungle, Michael is, of course, going through a little bit of a guilt trip moment. He's like breathing heavily. Jack confronts him. He thanks Jack for coming and trying to save Walt. And the sea, Saeed, Sun, and Jin sail past the sole foot of a statue with 4 toes. So like almost
typical Lush shtick. Just like, yep. Oh yeah, there's a massive statue.
There's a massive statue that was here. I'm assuming that's like a reference to like the Colossus of Rhodes, something like that. If we're getting into that, in the hatch, Locke and Desmond are able to successfully trick Echo. They trigger the lockdown procedure, which shuts Echo out from behind the blast door. Echo climbs out of the hatch through the rope ladder. He begs Charlie to help him get into the hatch to stop Locke and Desmond, or everybody is going to die. And he basically, once they're in the hatch, he basically throws Charlie's belt at the electromagnetic wall, and basically in order to prove it's like, look, there is something happening with the hatch. Like, if we don't push this button, something bad, really, really bad is going to happen. Back in the jungle, Kate notices 2 others are following them. Her and Sawyer open fire. They kill one of the others. They send one running. Jack says not to follow since the others basically already warned. And basically, this is their moment where they confront Michael. And they're basically like, yeah, tell us the truth, Michael. We all know what happened. And Michael's basically forced to admit the truth. He's like, yeah. He's like, look, it was the only way that they were going to give me back my son. And that's when Hurley realizes, it's like, oh my God, you killed Ana Lucia and Libby. And he's like, Libby was an accident. It wasn't even supposed to happen. And he's like, oh yeah? He's like, but you still would have killed her, right? Because she still saw you freeing Ben, ultimately. So that basically brings us, boom, end of part 1 of the episode. So already there's a lot that happens in this episode, for sure.
Yeah, Lost does not shy away in their finales. Like okay, you slog through like 20 episodes, like a few of them filler, a lot of them just build up to this inevitable confrontation. But now we're going to reward you for your patience, and we're going to give you everything. And then in part 2, that's when
and that's when the shit goes down.
The setup but the setup is also very engaging. And then part 2 is the real
Yes.
payoff of everything.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So getting into part 2 as well. Charlie shows Echo where the dynamite from the black rocket so they can use it to try to blow open the blast doors. Like I said, every season is a build-up to an explosion. That's what happens. Echo brings it to the hatch. Charlie's attempting to negotiate with Locke. Inside, Desmond tells Locke that it would take an atom bomb to blow the door off. Echo pulls off Charlie's belt, throws it against the wall in order to show him that the electromagnetism is real. Sets off the dynamite. It blows up. It knocks Charlie and Echo back, but it does absolutely nothing. Desmond begins questioning Locke's motives once he realizes that, this is entirely motivated by Locke's ego and insecurity of its essentially being lied to by the island. When Locke is like, I spent all my time trying to get into this hatch, and then somebody died getting in here, and then I got here, I started pushing this button, and it's like, and now basically my faith has not been rewarded, essentially. What did you think of that, real quick? Once Desmond realizes that Locke is Locke may not be being motivated by the right thing ultimately. How did you think they handled that transition once Desmond realizes, like, oh wait, Locke might not be all there mentally, and then especially once he realizes, he's like, oh wait, like there's something, because that's the other thing too. Also, that kind of makes me question Desmond's role here, is the fact that Desmond saw what happened when you didn't push the button. So why is he now all of a sudden willing to go along with Locke's harebrained scheme to not push the button? Like, was he just drunk when he went with it? Like, was he just pissed because of the pearl, because of the psychological experiment? Like, did he actually believe about the psychological experiment? Especially since in this episode it shows Jack's group walking past the funnel where all the notebooks were being sent. So the notebooks weren't being sent anywhere. So it's revealed that, the pearl station and them watching them push the hatch button, that was the psychological experiment, not pushing the hatch. So again, it's all linked to character moments, obviously, and certain characters finding out other things that other characters need to know and matching information. But like, that was where I'm like, it does kind of all fall apart once you realize that Desmond has seen what happens once the button goes past 0. So like, why now was he willing to go along with Locke's plan is kind of my question.
Yeah, Locke's been like to hell and back throughout this season. Then he needs to push the button, and he doesn't know what to do with the button. And Ben shows up, and then he shakes his confidence in the button. And then he has the whole lockdown episode where he gets stuck, and Ben doesn't or does push the button. And now he's arrived at this. Okay, he decided, okay, I'm not going to press the button. I guess Desmond, he also wants to find out until the moment when Locke shows him the printout,
right,
and then he links the dots.
And that's when he puts
it was him that
right.
crashed the plane through the failed discharge of the
through the failed discharge,
EMP.
Right, yeah. So, okay, so that makes sense, right? Is that ultimately Desmond just hasn't put 2 and 2 together because he didn't know, obviously, at the time when he almost failed to push the button the first time that it didn't go through. Okay, that makes sense. So like I said, on the other side of the island, Saeed approaches the others' camp, or so he's been told. He finds it completely deserted. He also checks the hatches by them. Nothing there. Jack's group discovers the pile of the notebooks. They notice the signal fire. Jack realizes that Michael has led them to the wrong place and into an ambush. They get captured by the others. They're hit with blow darts.
I had to. It's my son.
I had to. It's my son. Michael, getting very one note in these last couple of episodes.
I was watching a Brand Sancho lecture. He used Michael as like a bad example of like, okay, if when you reduce a character to one thing, that's when like people get sick of him. And unfortunately that's
what
happens
exactly
here.
What happened with Michael ultimately. I will say though, it kind of was like the perfect instance, because I will say after this, we don't see Michael again for a very, very long time. Like once Michael and Walt do leave the island in this episode, they are like gone for all of season 3. We don't see them again. Back at the hatch, Desmond questions Locke about the Pearl station, and he realizes the Pearl was the psychological experiment. When he's like, wait a minute, he's like, what if we were thinking about this the other way around? What if that was the psychological experiment, not this? And Locke's like, I don't care anymore. Locke gives and then that's when Locke gives Desmond the paper code, and he starts going through and he pieces together. Once you notice, he's like the date, the exact date. When did you guys crash land on here? And he's like, it was like September. What, I forgot the date. It's like September 24th, something like that. And he looks, he's like September 24th, 2004. And then that's when Desmond notices like the error system failure message, and that's when he's like, oh no. And you see the light bulb go on about his head. He's like, I think you crashed your plane. Then finally, the others bring the group to the dock. Kate tells Tom that she knows that his beard is fake. Ben pulls up on a boat. He's basically revealed to be their leader. Again, like anybody hadn't figured that out by this point. Back at the hatch, Charlie pulls Echo out of the wreckage. Desmond wants to push the button. He tries to explain how he caused the plane to crash to John. John, of course, continuing to be just like an arrogant asshole, breaks the computer. Desmond grabs the key to the failsafe once things start falling apart. It's hidden in the Dickens book. He tells John that he saved him so that he could basically repay the favor. Echo wakes up. Locke finally admits that he was wrong. Desmond turns the key in the failsafe, emits a massive white light that dwarfs the
Yeah.
entire island.
I will
Also,
say
like a slight
really good
vibrating
build
light.
up to that, because like
Yes.
everything is getting dragged, like the box with where the timer is, that gets crumbled, like there's
Yeah.
forks flying, the whole patch is
Yeah.
basically
Things
falling
are
apart.
starting to
This
implode,
Lindelof telling
essentially.
us, okay, we're destroying the hatch is
Yes.
done,
The
we're
hatch is
moving on
done. We are
from
finished.
this plot.
Yes,
So
exactly. And like I said, it's one of those. It's also one of those things too where you see it kind of seen by everybody. You see the others on the other side of the island with our group on the docks. You see Saeed, Jin, and Sun on the boat. You see everybody back at the main camp. Everybody witnesses this, and including some people not on the island as well, as we get to in the post-credit scene. So meanwhile, back with the others, Ben tells Michael that while he's not happy with how the arrangement turned out, he lived up to his end of the bargain, and he tells him to take the boat, follow a compass heading of 325, and they'll find rescue. When Michael asks him what'll happen if he tells anyone, Ben says, well, it doesn't matter because you really won't be able to find your way back to the island. And even if you do, you think the people are going to like it once they hear what you did in order to get off the island. And also, I will say, so while we don't see Michael and Walt again for a long time after this season, we don't see them at all for season 3. When Michael eventually does come back to the show, I will say he does have a little bit of a redemption arc where he basically is like, yeah, I understand that what I did in order to get my son back was wrong, and I'm basically kind of sort of here to repent. I won't say how, but you'll see once we get into the later seasons. What's it called? Walt is secretly on the boat, and oh man, I noticed it now more so because like it wasn't in the dark, it was in full broad daylight, but I was like, oh my god, wow, he grew like 10 extra inches. That is a teenager now, so that is not a little kid. So yeah, they basically, the very smart call cutting Walt. So you see them sail away, you see the final look of them. Ben lets Hurley go, tells him to go back to the camp, tells them, warns them not to come back, but he's like, yeah, but he's like, what about Jack, Kate, and Sawyer? He's like, oh, they're staying with us.
no,
And he's
they're
like,
the main characters.
they're the main characters. They got to stay with us. And he's like, because we're the good guys, Hurley. And it's just the classic case of like, oh, flipping our expectations on our head. What have the others really been up to all this time? Then it ends with Charlie and Claire have a nice rebonding moment afterwards on the beach. So that's
at least something good had to happen in this episode.
Had to happen at the very least. And now you see Charlie and Claire are basically back together. So like I said, that's basically running through all the plot points. I'm gonna get into like kind of the end scene in Antarctica. But first things first, I just wanted to give a couple of cue ups. So like I said, in terms of like the relationship with the others, season one, you first see them. They are hinted at. They are, kind of introduced as like this ominous force on the island. Season 2, we're really building up the dread, but we're also building up this idea of, are the others who we actually have been led to believe, they are shown to be working with the very proficient 21st century technology. The whole, island savages is really just a facade that they themselves have come up with. What are they up to? Season 3 is the season where we get into the others and their dichotomy. And while I have stated before that season 3, the first half is a slog, but it is because we are spending time with Jack, Kate, and Sawyer as they are being held captive by the others, as we really, finally get into them, see how they operate, where they've been this whole time, how they're able to move around on the island. Yes.
Of the show, ultimately. It's like every Stephen King book. It's like the first half, you're going to get to know all the characters, and the second half is going to be full gas, no breaks.
Exactly. That's exactly. Honestly, that's a perfect description for season 3, because once season 3 gets going with the Hurley episode, Trisha Tanaka is dead, that's when things really, really kick into high gear. And then basically that's enough momentum for me to carry us not only through the rest of season 3, but into seasons 4 through 6. Because like I said, season 4 through 6, once we get past season 3, we see dramatically reduced episode count. Season 4, famously the writer's strike season, only 14 episodes that season. And then 5 and 6, which are also shortened, only 17 episodes in each of those seasons. So once we get into those last 3 seasons in 2026, we're going to start booking through these episodes like crazy. But that brings us into our final moment of season 2, which is, again, probably the first instance of where people from the outside world have detected the island. Ironically, getting back to the whole thing that they were trying to do way back in season 1, which they were just trying to get rescued before all this island insanity happened. We have these 2 Russian scientists in Antarctica playing chess. They got a notification on their computer. Oh, massive electromagnetic anomaly detected. And the first thing they do is they call Penny up, and they're like, yeah, we found it. And we don't need to know what they're talking about because we know exactly what they're talking about. They found the island. Penny has clearly been commissioning these people in order to find Desmond since he disappeared. And that also ties to do, it's like, wait a minute. If Penny's trying to find Desmond and this an electromagnetic anomaly, 2 + 2 = 4, she knows about the island. How would she know about the island? Like I said, Charles Widmore, very, very important figure introduced. And we are set up not only for the rest of the season, but for the rest of the show. Because like I said, Charles Widmore, Penny Widmore, the discovery of the island and its detection on the outside forces are going to be very, very crucial elements in the last couple of seasons of the show. But first, we have to get through the other season with season 3 next season, which we will be kicking off next week, in addition to our Naked Gun reaction. So, Luke, with that being said, season 2 is officially completed. What do we think?
I'll say I thought that when they flicked the Antarctic, I was like, okay, Locke and Echo are going to be stranded in the snow. They're going to be teleported
Hold that thought.
away from the island.
Hold that thought, because you may have the location wrong, but characters being randomly teleported from the island into other spots around the planet. Keep that in the back of your mind. Keep that in the back of your mind is all that I'm going to say right there.
This very much sets the stage for season 3 as like we've been pretty central narrative up until now. Everyone's pretty much together, either in the hatch or on the beach. Now we have the group is split. The main 3 essentially are with the others, and then the rest are still on the beach. And then now we're getting the outside world involved, which opens up another whole Pandora's box of plot possibilities. So I do wonder what the writers had in their minds after this finale. So okay, well shit, now we have a lot.
What?
Now we have a lot we can do.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm excited for Desmond to be more involved in the cast. See how he, because he'll probably have to take a leadership role, since it's like all 3 main leaders are now with the others. So Locke's like maybe as you said, Locke and Echo are going to be somewhere completely else after the big noise in the sky. So yeah, and now we can get into it this week already. So.
Yep, exactly. Like I said, we're no more waiting a year in between for seasons. We're gonna kick right off with season 3 next week, and season 3, like I said, so season 2 was our spring into summer Lost recap, and then into our fall movie season, we're going to be covering all of season 3. So make sure you guys stay tuned for all of that. We're going to be still pumping out 1 episode a week. We have not forgotten. We are going to be on track to finish this. Could you imagine if we, once we got to 2026, we took enough breaks in between seasons 4, 5, and 6 where we finished Lost right when Avengers Doomsday comes out? Could you imagine if we did that? I don't think we will, but because like I said, we had to do seasons 2 and 3 back to back so we could knock them both out by the end of 2025. But for 2026, I definitely envision us taking some breaks in between 4, 5, and 6, since they are drastically shorter episode counts. So, but I'll figure that out once.
It's gonna be tough waiting extra weeks for Lost. But
it's like, wait, I'm so used to doing this 1 week after another. So I don't know. I'll figure it out for sure once we get to it. But in the meantime, that was it. That was season 2, people. We had an absolute blast. For those of us who have already seen the Fantastic Four review on YouTube, be sure to go check that out if you haven't already. And for those of us who are listening on podcast form, stay tuned for our Fantastic Four review next. Yeah, and in the meantime, get lost. We will see you guys next week for the season 3 premiere. All right, people, big weekend, big episode. If you're watching us on video form, you'll see that we're doing our Fantastic Four review. If you're listening to us on podcast, you've already heard the finale for season 2 of Lost. For those of us who are watching on video, a couple of updates. So we are wrapping up our Lost season 2 reaction immediately after this, so be sure to tune into that as well. Also, Luke, this is pretty much the end of the summer blockbuster season, as you were just reminding me of beforehand. I mean, we have Naked Gun next weekend, and then we have Weapons the weekend after. We got a couple more entries. Caught Stealing and Highest to Lowest are both opening late in August. But yeah, for the most part, this is really the last big summer blockbuster until, I want to say, Tron Ares in October is going to be our next big, huge blockbuster. And that'll pretty much kick off the fall blockbuster season.
I think there was something in September. I can't remember what it was, but
well,
but essentially, yeah.
Yeah, you got the Paul Thomas Anderson movie coming out in September, but other than that, yeah, I can't really think of any big ones that are coming out between the rest of August and September. I mean, who knows? That'll be interesting. I always like when that happens, because it means that there could be another sneaky little surprise movie that could sneak through, and get some attention. Also, Warner Brothers taking another big gamble with Paul Thomas Anderson dropping $100 million on him, and I don't remember what his highest grossing movie ever is, but it's not big. Paul Thomas Anderson is not a dude who makes blockbusters, but he does make some really good movies. But we're here to talk about it, Luke. We talked about it 2 weeks ago with Superman, and now we're here back. Marvel's third entry this year, their first real attempt at their first family after a couple of, fun little cameos in their previous efforts. John Krasinski in Multiverse of Madness, Chris Evans coming back as Human Torch in Deadpool and Wolverine in order to, continue to up the stakes of the multiverse. But here we have it officially, Marvel's official Fantastic Four. And they came out right away and said, yeah, this is not going to be on Earth 616 because we don't want to have to deal with anybody kind of, complaining and arguing, oh, where were the Fantastic Four during Thanos' snap and all that, and Marvel being like, listen, guys, we hadn't quite locked down the ownership of 20th Century Fox. We couldn't just throw these guys in immediately, So obviously this movie, like every other Marvel movie that's been released in the last 2 to 3 years, has gone through a lot of behind the scenes development. It was originally announced that John Watts, the director of the 3 Tom Holland Spider-Man movies, was going to be directing this. And then he ended up stepping aside because he was done with superheroes. So then Marvel ended up bringing on Matt Shakman, who directed all 9 episodes of WandaVision and has had a long history of directing for television that goes all the way back to It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where I think he did some of his best work.
There was like 1,000 casting rumors, like
Yes.
different combinations. You had Adam Driver at one
Yes.
point, Margot Robbie.
Jake Gyllenhaal also was in the mix as well. But eventually, I believe it was around like February of last year when they officially announced the cast. It was going to be Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby, Joseph Quinn, and Eben Moss Backrack. And then a couple months later, you had Robert Downey Jr. being announced as Dr. Doom at Comic-Con. And we have sat through kind of the drudgery that was Brave New World and the surprise that was Thunderbolts. We're being like, oh, is Marvel back? Then we have the whole Superman movement where it's like, okay, James Gunn has now made his stamp on the DCEU with his, what's it called? With his feature film first entry in order to kick off that new universe with Superman. That movie is pretty well beloved, very well enjoyed. So people were wondering going into this, they're like, okay, how is Marvel going to compete against now its former prize darling? How is Fantastic Four going to hold up? And I'm gonna let you take this one first because I have a lot of conflicting thoughts. I just saw the movie for the first time last night. I have a lot of conflicting thoughts, but I want you to go first.
Well, I really enjoyed it. Fourth time around, because if you count the '90s unreleased one, yeah, everyone's throwing up the 4. I love
Gotta
it.
throw up the 4.
And
Gotta represent.
we're just so much going for it. Like even beforehand, it's like, oh, you got the '60s vibe. It's other universe. They don't have anything attached to them in terms of the mainline MCU. They can just fully do the quick origin, just bang and get in. And it's a very fast movie.
Very fast movie. They cut a lot.
There's a cut a lot, but I can see why they would cut what they cut. But I'm very happy with it. For me, it's right next to Superman, like just maybe like a tiny bit. If I rewatch them both a few more times, they might swap. But right now, it's like they Marvel and DC, they matched each other, and it's what we the fans want. It's better for them. It's better for us. So yeah, it was as I would say, fantastic.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this. I really did. I had a good time with it. Mostly just because the opening sequence, right? I'm just like, oh my God, just thank the Lord. They made an actual goddamn Fantastic Four movie. Not a movie
We're not
like,
trying to do the Dark Knight.
We're not trying to do the Dark Knight whole influence thing. We're not trying to make this grounded realistic. We're not trying to go off the Raimi Spider-Man movies and like have it set real world. And I will say, I do enjoy those mid-2000s Fantastic Four movies for what they are. They're not great. They're not trying to be anything spectacular, but for what those were at the time, they were pretty good. This is the true version of the Fantastic Four. And this movie has a lot going for it. It really does. Like you were saying, the 60s aesthetic and vibe is the highlight to me of the movie because it just makes the world feel so much more different than the MCU that we've kind of gotten to know. Because that's the thing also is that for all of their parading around the multiverse for the last couple of efforts, nothing has really felt like that, like different and nothing has felt really that different and captivating. This is the first time where it's like, oh, this truly feels like a completely different world. This does not feel like the Marvel that we have come to know. I don't know if they said this takes place in the 60s or if it's just modeled after the 60s, but they're very clearly going for that retro futuristic, world of tomorrow kind of thing. That in a weird way Tomorrowland also tried to do, but they really went for it. They really went for it. Like you can tell that Marvel put a lot of thought into this, a lot of effort into the design, into the look of the movie. And it even goes into the performances as well, because Reed, Sue, Johnny, and Ben in this incarnation are acting like characters that would live in the 60s, And this is probably the biggest surprise for me. Pedro Pascal, the dude who we have been complaining about endlessly, who has been
I
in.
think you have been complaining about.
I
I
have
have
been
not been.
complaining about endlessly, yes. As far as I'm sick of seeing him, this is like his 5th thing that he's been in so far this year after.
I just think he's a really good agent. Like,
Yeah, you don't say. After Freaky Tales, Eddington, Last of Us, Materialists, and now Fantastic Four. And man,
I think he was originally gonna be in Weapons, but then I guess he got
yeah,
cast
he
in
was,
this.
and then he got cast in this. Yes, and then they replaced him with Josh Brolin. Yeah, I color me impressed. Color me impressed. Never in a million years would I be saying that. Okay, Pedro Pascal is Reed Richards. Yeah, that worked, and fuck, it worked. It really, really worked. Like I said, the production design it has going for it, the feel it has going for it. It really, really, I think captures. I'm trying to remember the last time I said this because it's been a while, but this really, really captures the feel of that 1960s Stan Lee, Jack Kirby. Again, this is their first ever Marvel super team that they put out. This predates Avengers. This predates X-Men. I want to say this predates Spider-Man because Steve Ditko came on later on and did Spider-Man. So this is literally their first ever super team. And the other thing too also and the reason why I have always gravitated personally towards the Fantastic Four, I don't know if I've said this on a podcast before, Fantastic Four is my favorite Marvel superhero team. They always have been. Is that what sets them apart from the Avengers, from the X-Men, from the Thunder, from every other incarnate superhero team that Marvel's ever done, is they are a family first. They are a family first, and they are really more so scientists and explorers and engineers and real-world diplomats than all these other Marvel heroes, even more so than Tony Stark and Hank Pym. Reed Richards is like the pioneering mind when it comes to science. Sue Storm is like a diplomat, and the Fantastic Four really do take part in real world global affairs. They're not like the Avengers, which are pretty much this like autonomous body that operates completely independently of the US government. It's just the Fantastic Four, since their inception, have pretty much been tied into everything going on in real world events. And I really, really love how this movie does such a good job of setting up their dynamic without having to dive into the origin, very similarly to Superman, where all of these movies now are pretty much like, okay, you guys know the origin. Like, we don't need to waste any time with that. We're just
or at least we can show you like a quick little talk show intro, which I think that was perfect.
Right,
way
it
of,
was
like,
perfect.
catching up. Like, okay, we maybe not everyone knows the exact origins. Okay, they went to space, they got hit by a cloud, bang, they came back. One's a rock, one's a fire, one's invisible, one's stretchy, bang.
Yeah, pretty much. And like I said, exposition handled perfectly in the first bit.
You know what's funny about this?
Yeah.
Like, Thunderbolts doesn't have a second act, and this one doesn't really have a first act. It's like
doesn't really need it though. Is what's
yeah,
funny.
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. I think if everything that was cut would have been in the first act, like fighting all the other heroes, and that would have just been like, okay,
yes,
when is the Silver Surfer gonna show up?
It would have been tedious. Like I said, they cut a lot of stuff. They cut John Malkovich as the Red Ghost. They cut all the funny, silly gimmicks. They cut the Thing on a dating show, which honestly, I'm glad they got away with that. They cut that. Like I said, again, in a weird way, very similar to Superman in the sense of all the stuff they cut. I'm glad they cut, because when I heard all the stuff that they were going to include, I'm like, oh yeah, I don't think that would have necessarily been. I don't think that necessarily would have been good, but. So like I said, you have them like integrating into the world very well. The movie kind of just drops you into the world and lets you kind of go along with it. But again, I give these movies a lot of credit because they're not trying to hold the audience's hand. They're like, okay, you know these characters, you know these guys. Let's just drop you into the world, show you how it is completely different from every incarnation you've done before, and we're going to kind of just take you along for the ride. And that's exactly what they did. The other thing, too, also that I think gives this the added benefit of not having to really be an origin story is the fact that we can do so much more things. We can see the Fantastic Four in space. We finally get Franklin Richards, Reed and Sue's firstborn son in this movie, who, obviously once we get into Doomsday and Secret Wars is going to be a crucial part and is the most powerful being in the Marvel Universe, is Franklin Richards. You have all these fun little inserts and references to all the previous villains. You have the Mole Man in this movie, played very entertainingly by Paul Walter Hauser, and a couple of references to some of their other villains. And what's even better is this whole movie basically acts as Marvel's way of being like, okay, we're going to do Rise of the Silver Surfer, but right, where you get Galactus in his full-blown glory, comic accurate look, and man, they knocked the hell out of that sequence. What's it called? Julia Garner as Silver Surfer. And everything there. Like I said, that stuff, is the stuff, specifically with the Silver Surfer, the Rise of the Silver Surfer kind of already did well, but they're like, okay, now we're gonna like update it for like 21st century. And so you get all of these different things, and again, it really shows how far we've come in comic book storytelling. Because again, 20 years ago, this is something that would have taken minimum 3 movies just to get through. And now in today's day and age, because we have a generation of people who have grown up with these movies, who are so used to this type of storytelling, are now kind of able to just take it and embrace it and go along with it. They're like, okay, so this is the Fantastic Four. We know who they are. Boom. Oh, it's set in an alternate Earth that like is modeled after retro 60s. Cool. We're going with it. Oh, Reed and Sue. The opening scene. Oh, Sue's pregnant. They're having a kid. Boom. Okay, we're going with it. Oh no, the Silver Surfer's here. They're gonna destroy Earth. Boom. We're going with it. Okay, the Fantastic Four are taking off into space. Like there's a lot that happens in this movie, but they're able to structure it in such a way that it still makes sense. So generally, like, kind of, how do you think this compares to like previous like comic book efforts?
I think we're kind of at a point in comic book movies where we've kind of seen everything. Like throughout the 2010s, Marvel's kind of ran through the whole genre in a way, and now DC's trying something new with their approach. Marvel's also going to hit a reset in a few years,
Yes.
so it's not anything like groundbreaking in this movie. It's like, oh, you haven't seen this kind of storytelling before. Again, like you said, it's basically just Rise of the Silver Surfer, but done right. They're just gonna, okay,
Yes.
we're gonna do the classic Fantastic Four stories that people know. We're just gonna do it right. We're gonna establish the family dynamic first. It's like with Superman. Like the greatest strength of that movie is showing his humanity, and the greatest strength here is showing their family dynamic. You know, they're all important. They're not. It's not just Chris Evans saying, "Oh, I love women and stuff." It's Johnny
Right.
Storm. He actually plays like a very crucial role
Yes.
in turning the Silver Surfer to their side. Spoilers. Surprise, surprise! The Silver Surfer
Yeah.
helps
And
them
nobody's
recollect.
surprised. Yeah.
It's like oh, how's the movie gonna end? Oh, the Fantastic Four are gonna use their powers together to beat the bad guy. It's like
Gee, who could have seen
it's like
that one coming?
it's like, okay, we can't really do much more than that, so let's just do that, but do it really good. So I think that's where we are with comic book movies. Do what we know can be done, and just do it well, because we kind of scraped everything, and then we'll see where it goes from there. So
That kind of as well goes into a point where I've heard this talking point on a couple different podcasts recently when they're talking about the state of superhero content and cinema in general, which is where, again, obviously with James Gunn now running DC and all the projects that are coming out and people seemingly reinvigorated, everything going on with Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four, a couple of people have been saying, oh, it's like superhero cinema is no longer interested in taking risks. They just want to replay the hits. And I'm just like, well, if you call the last 4 to 5 years of superheroes taking risks, then yeah, by all means, continue to replay the hits. Because if it means that we'll be getting more movies like this and less movies like fucking Quantumania and the Marvels, if that's what you call taking risks, or any of the bullshit that Sony put out last year, I'll happily take it. Because if there's one thing that I've learned about comic book fans, specifically. And I've been talking about this for a couple of years now, really since 2021 with WandaVision, where I said that, okay, we are done trying to adapt these into movies. We are now just letting the comic books be the comic books. And that had a lot of ups and downs, but I feel like we're finally starting to hit the peak where the people at the highest levels of creative control here, not necessarily commercial control, but creative control here, are understanding that, okay, people want comic books at the end of the day. They don't want to try and they don't want movies that are trying to cater to a whole bunch of different audiences by hitting 4 quadrants. No, because that to me is if I had to say one of the biggest differences between the superhero movies of the 2010s and 2000s versus the superhero movies today is that the superhero movies of the 2010s were trying to be movies first that were adapting comics. As good as the MCU was, at the end of the day, they were merely only kind of picking and choosing the comic storylines that they liked and sort of changing it bits and pieces here and there. You know, the Avengers famously adapting the Ultimate Marvel comic line and so on and so forth. You know, Infinity War is a loose adaptation of Infinity Gauntlet, but they can't obviously adapt all of it. You know, now the comic book movies are straight up trying to be comic books. Superman, Gunn did not shy away from the fact that, yeah, this is based on Grant Morrison's Superman Man of Tomorrow run. I think I screwed that up, but whatever.
there's
And then
All-Star Superman.
All-Star Superman,
Yeah.
thank you. And then Fantastic Four, yeah, they're like, yeah, we are very clearly trying to do the early 60s like Fantastic Four run, and we are not trying to shy away from the fact that we are a comic with the bright colors and the insane designs and what's it called? And also the fact that again, people just they want the original comic book designs. You know, the whole day, the days of Bryan Singer being terrified of making the X-Men, of putting the X-Men in yellow and blue spandex are over. You know, now we can get comic books to their full accurate design and look. And I think it's to the better, honestly, because even if the stories aren't necessarily anything that we haven't seen before, it still makes it feel creative and new. Because, like I said, it's probably my number one favorite point about this is the fact that this feels like the most lived in comic book world that I have seen in a very long, long time. And Superman goes with that as well. It is quite interesting how these two movies did open only 2 weeks apart, and they do have a lot more similarities than I give them credit for. They're all about kind of inspiring a new wave of hope. They're all about trying to get away from cynicism. Superman was all about accepting embracing your heritage. This movie is all about, what's it called? Sticking strong through through your family bonds and not caving way to anything. The other thing that I really enjoyed about this movie is that this is the first Marvel movie I think I've ever seen that actually makes use of the people around the superheroes. Like the people of New York in this world, Earth 828, as they say, are characters in this movie and play a very, very important part. Like the whole public reaction and the relationship that the Fantastic Four maintains with the public as a whole. Again, the whole opening exposition sequence is done through an Ed Sullivan-esque TV show. Like all of that was really, really interesting and cool, I thought, because it actually makes the world even more of a character, I think.
Yeah, that's a little bit of the Raimi trilogy coming back. Hey, we're in New York. You mess with us, one of us, you mess with all of us, kind of thing. Like where they throw bricks at Willem Dafoe in the first one or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really about that coming together. Like the whole plot of okay, everyone has to save power. That kind of montage was pretty cool. Like if only it were that simple in
Yeah.
the real world.
Yeah.
But again, kind of like Superman, just people coming together for a greater cause. World feels lived in, and again, they did all that in like less than 2 hours,
Right.
which is why the pacing is so brisk. Like people already like assembling full on like mini trailers of footage that wasn't in the movie.
Yep.
But ultimately, I think they didn't cut anything as absolutely essential. It still got all the points across. The action was cool. We get like a random interstellar sequence in the
Yeah,
middle of the movie.
I was about to
which
ask
is
you
like,
about that. I was like,
which
because
is
that was
like
the moment where I'm like, oh, I know, I've seen this before. This is still
well,
very prevalent on my mind.
as an Interstellar fan, I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
put Interstellar with the Fantastic Four together, like
yeah, yeah.
absolutely,
That
like
was cool. That was cool. I love that. I
and
dug that.
I love that, that they just don't like try to explain anything. Faster than light travel, boom, solved it, mate. Teleportation across the universe, boom,
Yes.
solved it, mate. Just like okay, I'm rolling with. I could nitpick it to hell, but no,
Well, because that's the
it's the
thing.
full booky universe,
Yes, because
as you
that's the
called
thing
it.
too. Also, is that like I said, it's part of the comic lore. It's part of embracing the comic lore, where it's like again, we're not going to explain everything and hold your hand, but that's the shit that I prefer because if anything, that's what helps makes it more cinematic. Cinema is all about showing you, not telling you, and so much of the fear of comic book storytelling has been we have to tell you everything beforehand, and I think it's hurt not only comic book movies but movies in general because movies in general have felt like they can't trust their audience to know what's going on, so they're just going to tell you everything. And if anything, if we're getting movies on this big of a level that are that confident with being like, okay, we're not going to tell you anything, we're just going to throw you right in, and you're just going to go with it. That gives me hope, honestly, because what that's going to do is that's going to tell other movie studios, okay, we don't have to tell you everything. We could just kind of send you in. And as far as the middle sequence, that's what a lot of people are saying is their favorite sequence, and understandably so. Again, the movie knew what it was doing. I would not at all be surprised if they literally just pulled the graphic files from Interstellar, just put it right up there and be like, okay,
They
put
just
some
sent an
cast out on
intern to
there.
the Warner Brothers office
I mean,
across
come
the
on, when
street,
they're
just
going
like
through the wormhole, I was like, come on, like that, they're not even trying. Like, what are we doing here? But no, but it was still a great sequence. It was so awesome. Like, I'm like, oh my God, we got the Fantastic Four going into space because that's the joy of the Fantastic Four. You don't enjoy watching the Fantastic Four like punch giant monsters or take down like the wizard and everything. No, that's not their whole thing. They're really more so like goofy. They're more Star Trek, I would say, than Marvel, if anything. It's all about like every kind of episode, every movie, every issue is about like, okay, what new place are we going to explore? What new kind of crazy scientific problem is Reed going to have to solve last minute? You know, what kind of that is the Fantastic Four ultimately. And the fact that we got that in this movie finally, where it's like, okay, we have, you know, Reed Richards is the smartest man on the planet. He is arguably one of the top 3 smartest minds in the entire MCU. It's sad that we'll never get to see him interact with Tony Stark, because I will say the Tony Stark Reed Richards dynamic is to me way more interesting than say the Tony Stark Doctor Strange dynamic that we got. But I love that we like got to see like Reed is, you know, an egghead. Reed is socially inept. Reed is so smart that he is constantly thinking of all these crazy out there doomsday scenarios beforehand, so that you know, so that he can like pretty much solve the threats before they essentially come. You
Yeah,
know, the difference is
and it's
these.
also they also make it like a flaw of him because he
Yes,
considers like, well, okay, what if we did give up Franklin, and now that causes a rift between him and Sue, which just only deepens their relationship,
yes,
that's kind of the core of the whole movie. Like, okay, we're gonna like, and then she has that great speech of, I'm not gonna sacrifice the world for my child, but I'm not gonna sacrifice my child for the world, or is it the other way
yeah,
around?
great
Either way,
speech.
it was a good scene. It was a good
Good
scene.
scene. Good scene. And it's funny too, because ever since you pointed out the Emma Frost thing on our Mission Impossible rewatch, I was like, oh, it's so hard. It's so hard for me to not see it. But I gotta say, it worked. It worked because there was something about Vanessa Kirby. Vanessa Kirby, despite only being 35, I want to say, is very, very regal, very formal. She's somebody who kind of comes across as ageless. She could be 100 years old, she could be 20 years old, and either way, you would buy it, you know? And what's so interesting about her portrayal of Sue is Susan Storm is to be a very warm figure, a very maternal figure. The thing about Sue is that she is one of, honestly, the most impressive female characters ever created. The fact that she is simultaneously a mother, this genius science person, an expert diplomat, an expert courier. She is, you know, it is often referred to that she is the glue of the Fantastic Four, the one that really holds them together. And the fact that Kirby is able to portray all of that flawlessly, like we see her in all of these different instances, we get to see her be vulnerable, we get to see her be an absolute badass. We get to see her be angry. We even get to see
I love
her.
the anger part in
That
the
was
in the
great.
wormhole part. I
Yeah,
was like, she's trying to kidnap your nephew, kill her.
that was so good. That was great. There's a couple of random. That's the other thing too. Also, is that this movie we're finally starting to get away from like the having to insert joke at minute number whatever, and like it's starting to feel a little bit more natural. It took a while, but we're finally getting there. And even the older brother sister dynamic that she has with Johnny, which is also another element that kind of gets overlooked a lot, you know, is the fact that again the reason why these four are so crucially to get so crucial together is because of all of their different kind of interdynamics that they have with each and every one of each other. Where, you know, Ben and Susan have this very like this very warm back and forth where Susan has often been the one that's pulled him back from the brink in terms of his darkest moments. We got to see Reed and Johnny together, which is something that I never thought, because Reed often in the past has looked down on Johnny and kind of thought of him as like, you know, just kind of like a dumb kid. And like you said, this is the first instance where we actually get to see Johnny Storm not just be the cocky, arrogant womanizer. He actually like has an arc and he actually has flaws. And he's like, okay,
Yeah.
I kind of just like want to go into space, and oh, am I measuring up to kind of my quarter of the team, you know, and all that. And it's kind of funny how Ben Grimm, who's my favorite of the Fantastic Four, is the one that kind of gets the least amount to do,
Yeah.
but it
I think
doesn't matter.
he's a very expensive character.
Yes, he's a
I think
very,
that's what
very
it comes
that's
down to.
definitely what it comes down to. But even with him, they managed to make it work because, and again, that just shows the power of Evan Moss Backrack. You and I both talked about it when they were announcing these cast members. The one that we were all the least worried about was they're like, wait, Cousin Richie from The Bear is the thing, to the point where they even had his first major scene is him cooking. I'm like, of course, who else could have done this? Like, I can't think of a single other person that could have done this. Like, just absolute perfect casting. I do have a slight nitpick that when they brought in Natasha Lyonne finally, they don't have her playing Alicia Masters. Because I'm like, come on. But, like, you got everything else so right. Like, oh, like, down to the finest detail. And the one thing you couldn't do was have Alicia Masters, who was the only woman that Ben Grimm has ever been with, to my knowledge, in the entire history of the comics. You couldn't even do that. But, yes, your thoughts on just kind of the casting and the individual team dynamics.
Yeah, I think Pedro was perfect. He showed that like kind of, I'm so obsessed with this with he's like Jack on Lost. He has to solve the problem of everyone, and it's his greatest strength and it's his greatest flaw. And Pedro, as Pedro does, he showed that vulnerability of Reed really well. As you said, Vanessa Kirby, she balanced everything. She balanced the badassery, the warmth, and the diplomat side of it. As we said, uh, Ebon's backtrack, that was no worries there. Like
No worries at
the
all.
the clobbering time delivered as well.
I'm gonna get to that when we get to the third act. I'm gonna get to
Oh
that.
yeah, but I think for me in terms of character, my favorite was Johnny Storm because like you see those clips of Chris Evans like oh
Yeah,
like this guy's really good, but then you realize okay that's the only thing he does in those
yeah,
movies. But here it's like okay Johnny he fawns over the Silver Surfer, but he's also gonna solve the whole translation problem and he's gonna try and fight Galactus all on his own. Like all he does everything. Like they all do everything in this movie, except maybe like Ben Grimm, as we said. Like
yes,
he's also kind of a glue of the team. Like they're
very
all
much so.
equally glued to each other.
Yes.
And he has some good moments like throughout the film.
Yes, very, very much so. Yeah, I like I said, that was the biggest thing for me going into this was I'm like, okay, how are they going to nail the team dynamics? Because in every previous incarnation, it has always been, oh, the Reed Richards show, and everybody else is kind of supporting. I thought, again, the 2015 Fantastic Four, amongst all of that movie's flaws, that to me was the one where, again, the worst thing that had going against it was just how like, oh, we're gonna build up like Reed and we're going to build up Johnny because he's Michael B. Jordan and oh, he's cool and such. But we're going to sideline Sue for the actual mission. We're going to not bring Ben Grimm back. And then also just so many problems with that casting of Ben Grimm as well. Jamie Bell of all people. And here it's like, no, the thing about it is every one of these four members are so crucially integral. They do everything together. They live together. They eat together every Sunday lunch. Like they are a family, you know? And also it's what I like is that it's not like a toxic codependent family either. Like they really do all need each other and lean each other and depend on each other and support each other. That's why they've tried to do other incarnations of the Fantastic Four in the past where they tried to swap out certain members, iterations where the Thing all of a sudden became Ben Grimm again and lost his powers and they had to replace him with She-Hulk at different points, and it's never worked. It's never, ever, ever worked. Like every single version of this, the only version of this team is these four ultimately. And then obviously once Reed and Sue start having kids and they bring in Franklin and later Valeria, and I wonder if that's going to play a part in Doomsday and Secret Wars at all when we get into that. All of that is so crucial and essential to this team and to the foundation of this team. And it's very apparent that they were working on that first and foremost, and they nailed it. It's so funny because I will never forget last year my roommate being like, this cast is like if you plugged into ChatGPT, oh, who would be the most ideal cast members for the Fantastic Four? And these four would be the ones that it turned out. And while I still do have quibbles with the Johnny Storm casting, I still wish that they had gone with Joe Keery over Joseph Quinn because I see certain parts, and again, it really comes down to the writing and the look because I see certain parts where Joseph Quinn is trying to like be human and relatable. And I'm like, oh, he's struggling. He's struggling there. But just parts that I just know Joe Keery would have just been effortless in. But for the most part, they nailed it. They got it. They made it work.
I've learned one thing to never doubt Marvel in and its casting because
Yes.
everything they've done is impeccable and like
Yes.
what they're gonna do with Downey, like we'll get to that
Yeah.
in a year and a half, but
Yes.
but for now it's like they never miss on casting. They like
Yes, for the most part.
whoever their casting director is very good at their job.
Seriously, they deserve multiple Oscars and then some. Yeah, and that brings me into the villains as well. Like I said, so Julia Garner as the Silver Surfer, Ralph Ineson, famously the deepest voice in Hollywood ever as Galactus, and again, very small part. Again, does not play as big a part of it in the movie, but still very
But I
entertaining.
think that that's important when you have a cosmic horror. Like what they're trying to go for is like less is more
Yes.
ultimately. Like, that's
Yes.
why he has so few lines. That's why you only really see him fully at the end. You only see him in shadows and silhouettes in the interstellar sequence, as I think everyone's calling it.
Yes.
But then he absolutely lives up to what I imagine. People are saying they nerfed him. I'm like,
Not
it's
really.
it's a big guy. Like, what more can you do with him?
Yeah, there's
Really?
only so much that you could do with that, exactly. And also the thing that I love too about this incarnation of Galactus and not the gas cloud Galactus is it not only makes him more, I guess, tangible, if you will, in the sense of, oh, it's like an actual thing that you could like see and touch instead of just like another stupid gas cloud like they did in 2007. And not only that, but it lets you get into kind of like the backstory and kind of it makes the conflict more real in the sense of, oh, it's this giant god thing that predates the known universe that just goes and crunches up planets. But I like that you see his ship. I like that you see how like the physics of it work, how it's done. Like, because when you think like, oh, he eats planets, like what does that mean? Like he's just like a giant dude, but like he has this like giant ship that he's in that feeds and funnels the energy of the planets directly into him. It makes him more tangible. It makes him like he's not like, I don't remember if Galactus is a celestial or not, but it makes it more, real. It makes it more believable. Ultimately, is what I'm trying to say. And as well as the Silver Surfer, again, it was stuff where again they only kind of exposited it in Rise of the Silver Surfer, but here like you really get into her backstory and her mythos as well, where you get into this thing of whole, oh, she made a deal with Galactus in exchange for him sparing her world, but and then the trade-off for that ultimately would be that she would ultimately find these other worlds that would have to be sacrificed for Galactus's hunger. And I mean, honestly, also just the effects and the voice that they did for Julia Garner. It's Julia Garner is somebody who, again, you've probably developed a certain relationship to her if you've kind of gotten to know her as Ruth from Ozark, because she
I
gave a
started
very,
watching Ozark after this.
yeah.
It's
If you've
like,
seen Breaking Bad, you've seen it. So
yeah, it is very Breaking
yeah,
Bad.
yeah. I enjoy Ozark because of Jason
Yeah.
Bateman, and Julia Garner did grow on me after a certain point. But the thing that I liked is kind of she's got a very distinct, unique voice, and they really kind of focused on that, because the effects that they do on the voice and like when she first comes down to Earth and is introduced, I thought was incredible. And also just like how they're like, okay, you've seen like the awesome Silver Surfer effects that they can do. Now we're gonna really show it off in 4K. And like the sequences also where like Johnny flames on and goes after her. I'm like, oh, I was
And
thrilled. I
she
was
actually
absolutely thrilled.
surfs.
Yes.
Like he had some incredible sequences in either on Galactus' ship where she's surfing through the lava, like actually surfing. Like they
Yes.
never actually call her the Silver Surfer. She's always the Herald.
Right.
And then she chases them through the wormhole, and then you have some amazing bits there. And then again, she essentially gets Johnny involved more in the plot and his translation subplot. So yeah, really good use of her in this.
Yeah, very good use of her. And like I said, she's the one that comes back and has the sacrifice play after Johnny's able to turn her. She comes back, she pushes Galactus into the wormhole, ultimately, that they're able to banish him. So, there's a little bit of a plot contrivance where they get back to Earth. They have the whole, oh, is the public going to trust them because they won't give up their baby to Galactus and all that. The whole like, oh, one life is one life worth the cost of billions, all that. And then Sue has a great moment. They're like, okay, we're going to build all these space bridges basically around the planet. I don't know what Reed calls them, but I'm going to call them space bridges because that's basically what they are. And we're going to transport the Earth to a different thing. And I think that was originally like, you could tell that also that was the thing that like, this was the part of the movie that had gone through several rewrites as well, because I know that
Yeah,
there was
there's a lot of writers on this. There's like
yeah,
five
there
or
are.
six.
There was a previous version of this script where they were like, oh, the Fantastic Four were originally going to teleport their Earth into kind of Earth 616 space, and that was potentially going to be the cause of an incursion. Thankfully, they didn't go that route, because that I think also is another strength that this movie has going, is that this movie is very, very standalone. Other than obviously, okay, we know the Doctor Doom is coming, and there's the references to Latveria throughout this movie. There are no references to the greater MCU, to the multiverse, none of that, which I think is perfect. You did not need that.
Because here we all were thinking, like at least I was like, oh, there's something's gonna happen at the end of this movie, and they're gonna go to the 616.
Right.
But no, I was like, oh,
No, it
even
doesn't. I
even
mean,
even better. We
well,
still
we
have to
so
wonder
well,
why they're going there.
so that's funny that you say that. We get the hint of what's going to bring them to 616, but we don't actually see them going. Is what I appreciate the
Yeah.
most. So Reed builds all these space bridges around the Earth in order to try and transport the Earth, and then of course Silver Surfer shows up and destroys them in like 5 seconds. And I'm like, okay, that feels like a little bit of a plot contrivance, but okay. And then obviously Galactus comes and we have our big punch out third act sequence where Sue is basically like, oh, okay, we have to do this. We have to use Franklin as bait. It's the only way that we're going to get this guy here, and we're going to suck him into the portal. And it makes for a very, very entertaining punch him up third act, but not even in the sense of like a typical Marvel third act, because again, the action is very clean. It's very cohesive. The bright colors really help. You can see what's going on. Oh man, the sequence when Galactus it's funny. I thought it was going to have a lot of quibbles with Ben's rock beard. I thought that was going to be dumb, but they even explained that away in the movie. It's like, okay, I kind of see it. But also, I mean, the line when Johnny goes into space, saves Ben after Galactus chucked him into space, and comes back and he's like, "What time is it, Ben?" Like, because they're building up the whole thing throughout. It's like, oh, Ben doesn't want to say the signature line. That's not his line. They just said that for the what's it called, for the cartoon show, for the in-universe cartoon show that they did based on them. And then when he's finally almost reluctant. You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of in the 2010s Michael Bay Ninja Turtles movies, how when all the turtles are fighting and Raphael says to Michelangelo, he's like, "Hey Mikey, remember that thing that we used to say when we were kids?" It kind of reminded me of that a little bit, where it's like, oh, it's a little bit of like tongue-in-cheeking while also like paying respect to the original thing. And then he finally does the signature. It's clever in time, and he does it like so reluctantly, but it works. Oh man. I was just like, I was fist pumping so hard at that.
People are saying like, "Oh, Joseph Quinn didn't say flame on once." I'm like, he
Need
flames on a lot.
to.
He's gonna say it every time.
Yeah. I don't know. I always thought that like that was kind of the weakest part of the Fantastic Four lore. It's like, wait a minute. So you would assume that the flames are part of his biology, that he would have instinctively figured out how to like flame on and flame off. Why does he need to keep saying it every time? Also, by that logic, why does he need to say flame on, but then he never has to say flame off? Like, have you ever heard Johnny Storm say flame off in anything? Like,
Yeah,
no, you haven't.
it looks good on a comic book panel. It's like big
Yes.
flame on letters, but in a movie, it's like okay,
Yeah.
they acknowledge it with the cereal toy, and then
Yeah.
that was enough.
Exactly. And I will say too, if they were gonna have Johnny do the big sacrifice play, like famously, there's a comic panel in the Fantastic Four Jonathan Hickman run where Johnny Storm sacrifices himself to basically hold off an entire horde of annihilist, of annihilist aliens in the negative zone, and he famously says "flame on" right before the portal closes, and like that's supposed to be his big sacrifice play.
Maybe
So
we'll get that in a few years.
possible, it's possible. Yeah, if once
Especially
we're
if we're merging universes and
yeah.
Spider-Man can join the Future Foundation
That's true.
thing.
That's true. Yeah, the Future Foundation is a big one. Yeah, because famously, at least I haven't read past Secret Wars, but Johnny Storm and Ben Grimm do not make it out of Secret Wars alive. That's all that I'm going to say to that. But like I said, if they are setting us up for Franklin and later on Valeria to help, co-found the Future Foundation, that would be something interesting. Okay, so are we going to have the Doctor Doom conversation now?
I think we have to. I was
Yeah.
expecting to have a little more conversation to be had, but
Yeah,
but
well,
I think
okay.
it comes down to speculation.
Yeah, it really comes down to speculation because, again, this is another one where it's like, okay, the post-credit scene was shot for the Russos while they were shooting Doomsday. Same with Thunderbolts, right? Thunderbolts post-credit scene is them arguing with the whole, the Revengers versus Avengers. We're getting sued by Sam Wilson, and then they get alert the Fantastic Four ship is seen coming into space. And then this one, we get the post-credits. It's 4 years later. Sue is with now toddler Franklin, and she goes to get him a book, and then she comes back and she sees Franklin, with a hooded figure and with the face. So we're like, okay, so that's Doctor Doom. And so it is stated that Latveria is a country in this universe. We see multiple hints when Sue is basically running her UN-esque foundation. I don't remember what it's called. But so this is our first instance. We finally got him. Matt Shackman did confirm. They're like, yeah, I did not shoot that. That was all the Russo brothers. That is Robert Downey Jr. as Doctor Doom, even if we don't see his face. So as far as the speculation, there's been a lot of speculation. There's been a lot of rumors. We know that they're currently shooting Doomsday right now over in London.
Currently writing.
I was about to say, yeah, that writing it simultaneously. They do not have a third act yet at all. So, what are your thoughts in general?
I think it's an inclination that Franklin will be very important to the storyline there, because he's not as important in the comic, right? Like he's there, but he's not like I think there's gonna be some shuffling around. Like there is gonna Molecule
be
Man is gonna be
yes.
maybe he'll
Man
use
is
Franklin
Loki
as a battery or
well, no. So Molecule Man is they're gonna use Loki is what it's gonna be. But Franklin Richards famously, so when Doctor Doom merges the universes into Battle World and becomes the ruler after he steals the powers of the Beyonders, Franklin basically, Doctor Doom basically takes.
He takes the family for him.
Yeah, he takes the family for himself essentially, and Valeria is running the Future Foundation, and Franklin is basically like. He's not quite the battery, but Franklin is literally operating Galactus as like his own personal weapon, essentially. So that also I think was kind of interesting as far as how that tied in here with Galactus like wanting Franklin as like kind of his. I don't remember exactly how it's called. It's like, oh, you will basically be my heir, so you will relieve me of my eternal hunger. They didn't really go into the specifics on that. But essentially, what I do know is going to be a plot point is Doctor Doom kidnapping Franklin is going to be the thing that brings the Fantastic Four to Earth 616, essentially, and bring them into conflict with the new Avengers as well. And then that's going to bring them in the old Avengers as well. Thor meeting up with Loki. They're going to go to the X-Men universe, which is where they think Franklin is. That's going to bring them into the fight with the original X-Men. And then by the time they figure out what's going on, Doctor Doom's going to bring through his final plan in order to merge the universes. That's the bare bone effort. So I think that Franklin is going to be one piece of that, and then Loki will be the other piece as well once he goes and confronts him.
People are trying to throw in Wanda into the equation. Like, guys, she'll be there for the mutant saga.
Just she'll be there for the mutant saga.
Relax.
Yeah, I mean, do I think that she's not going to be in Doomsday and Secret Wars? No, I think she will play some part. But as far as her coming back and having like a real like main contribution, yeah, they're saving that for when they bring back the mutant saga ultimately. So yeah, it was good. It was a fun little reveal. It was already leaked ahead of time, so I'd already seen it. Obviously, again, kind of the ominous doom and gloom of it's like, okay, they very deliberately did not show his face because, honestly, like I think they're so. I mean, do you think they know what Doctor Doom's face is going to look like? Downey's face is going to look like as Doctor Doom? Like, you think they're going to make him scarred? Do you think they're just going to make him have the faceplate? Like,
I think maybe they'll have something. They won't go overboard where he's unrecognizable. Like maybe he'll have like a real big scar or something. But no, it's still Downey. You're paying him
Right.
however many millions you're paying him. You're gonna use him
Yeah,
to his fullest. Like you'll
exactly.
have the mask, but
Yeah.
not for like all of it.
And the other interesting thing too, also, is it's like, okay, are they going to tie into Reed and Doomsday's story? Because I don't know which incarnation they're going to do, because they've done there's two primary different incarnations when it comes to it. You have like Doctor Doom is just kind of like this ancillary villain that the Fantastic Four end up facing, or Doctor Doom and Reed have known each other since they were kids, like Ben, when they studied together. But the difference is they were Doom was always kind of jealous of Reed's abilities, and that's kind of what drew them apart ultimately. Because famously also, and obviously, we have Franklin Richards in this comic arc as well, but especially if they bring in Valeria, that also was like a big source of contention between Reed and Doom, is the fact that Doom is not only the one who delivers Valeria because Reed is unable to, but is also the one that names her. So that's also another like big point of contention if that comes into play in Doomsday and Secret Wars, because famously it was during an attack by the Annihilus wave as well, where, Reed, Johnny, and Ben were basically having to hold off Annihilus single-handedly, and Doom and Sue was in labor, but there was something wrong, and Doom was the one who safely delivered the child, and his payment for doing so was that he got to name her, and then he ended up naming her after his dead sister. So, yeah, that could be a big point of contention between Reed and Doom, especially since they said that like that's ultimately what it's going to come down to. Especially since obviously there's been a lot of rumors as far as who the center figure is going to be for Doomsday. They're like, oh, is it going to be Reed Richards? Is it going to be Anthony Mackie? Is it going to be Florence Pugh? Who is going to be like kind of the lead center figure? And I'm like, it's not going to be any of them. It's going to be centered around Doctor Doom, the same way that Infinity War was centered around
Yep.
Thanos. Like, I don't understand why this is a kind of a point of contention, but ultimately, yeah, it's our first instance of Downey as Doctor Doom. We're going to see him in full glory in a year and a half in Doomsday if they finish filming in time. I mean, they have to finish filming in time, right? Because if Doom 3, as they've said now, it's not going to be Doom Messiah. If Doom 3 finishes and is released at Christmas at that time, they need that big double release. That is what's keeping the money rolling
Yeah,
in right now as
and
well.
only one Marvel movie in that year, and
Right?
Sony's getting like however much of that box office anyway.
Yeah, they really need that movie to come out. They
Mr.
need that movie to
Iger
be a
needs
hit.
his
They
big
really
movie.
do. They really do. Again, that yacht of his is not going to fuel itself. That's all I'm going to say.
Can we pump out Doctor Strange 3 real quick or
Yeah,
something?
yeah. Seriously, I thought that. I'm like, wait, are they going to do at least one more effort between Doomsday and Secret Wars, right? Because if Secret Wars is Christmas of 27, like they need at least one more movie in between. They can't just go a full year in between without it. But I don't know. Maybe they will. But also, like, I feel like I don't know. Doctor Strange 3, I feel like would be the movie that they would have like secretly shot in between these movies and that they would have pumped out, because we need to see something of Doctor Strange in the Dark Dimension with Clea at the very least. Like Multiverse of Madness left off on too big of a cliffhanger for that. So yeah. If that is all that there is to be said, to quote one Greg from Succession, then yeah, I believe that's it. So Luke, your final thoughts and star ratings for Fantastic Four, our last Marvel effort until Brand New Day next year, and then Doomsday in a year and a half.
In our last superhero movie until Supergirl in
Yes,
June, I think.
yes,
So I think the bar was met. Just make a great Fantastic Four movie. Get the family dynamic right first, and then you can go into the crazy Doctor Doom saga or whatever. Even like their powers are kind of tame in this. Sue has a really good like motherhood moment. Like this is what Marvel does. Like Guardians of the Galaxy ends with power of friendship. This ends with power of motherhood. But
yes,
it works because they build it up so well
yes.
through the relationship. So final star rating 4 stars. 4 for the 4 on the fourth go around.
444.
In the it's not the fourth phase, but
Right.
whatever.
Oh, that's
If,
this is
if
technically the
only.
kickoff for Marvel's Phase 6, which I'm like, I don't even care
Yeah,
at this point anymore. I don't think anybody does. Oh man,
but yeah.
after the disaster that was Phase 4 and 5, I think we're all kind of sick of the phases, and we're like, yeah, just let's just get to the next. By the time Doomsday comes out, it'll have been 7 years since the last Avengers movie. So I'm like, please, Thunderbolts doesn't count. So I'm like, yeah, I'm like, can we please just get to the next thing and let's wrap this thing, let's reboot it so we can do what we should have done 4 years ago. But other than that, yes, I tend to agree. This was a very, very good effort. They finally got it. Fourth time around is the charm. They nailed the family dynamic. They nailed it. What's it called? They nailed the space saga. They really did a good job with this one. I'm really impressed. I think I still like Superman a tad bit more, but just as far as I'm like, oh my god, we finally got a comic book accurate, good Fantastic Four movie in my lifetime. I'm more than happy with it. I will take that 4 stars. And with that being said, Luke, like I said, don't go anywhere because we're going right into the Lost season 2 finale right after this. So, Luke, where can the good people follow you on the interwebs?
They can follow me at Luke Reviews on YouTube. Again, not a whole lot there, but Fantastic Four. This is again another contender for the top 10. I'm looking at my list. This is not that many movies that I've watched ultimately.
It's not like there's
So
that many movies to really watch this year, anyways.
no, there hasn't. Like I've missed a few here and there, but it's not like egregious. So second half of the year, there's still some bangers to be had. And the Avatar 3 trailer looks
I'm pumped for that.
like,
That's gonna
it's
be
the same
good.
thing
It's
again,
the same
but I'm
thing.
there every time.
Doesn't matter. Listen, we're not watching these movies for the plot. We don't care.
No. Like Jake and Quaritch fighting. Like, just give me
Fire
like 3 more
Clan?
of those.
The Fire Clan, dude, with them like with the flamethrowers and then like that. Oh man, I can't wait.
And
I
it's
can't fucking wait.
from Game of Thrones, Talisa Stark.
Yes.
Rob Stark's
Yep.
wife.
Rob Stark, Una Chaplin. That's right. And I believe we're getting David Thewlis in this as well. I gotta check. I think we are. I'm not sure.
Michelle Yeoh's in it as well.
But I don't remember if they're in this one or if they're not coming in until 4. Also, James Cameron potentially taking a break between 3 and 4 to do Devils by Joe Abercrombie, which I'm
reading it right now. See, it's up there.
Yeah, but I bought the book. It's over there. Also,
it's basically Suicide Squad, but fantasy.
I'm all for it.
Yeah.
But my question is, when is he going to do the Ghost of Tsushima movie that he's been claiming he's been going to do for years? Like,
I guess he's doing this. I don't think he'll do this for a while because I think he'll do Tsushima. No, wait, Ghost of Hiroshima.
Ghost of Hiroshima.
Ghost of Tsushima is the game.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's separate game. So he'll do Ghost of Hiroshima, then he'll do 4, then Devils, then 5.
I think so.
Okay,
that's how
that
I
makes sense.
imagine it.
Because I'm also thinking of like Cameron's not exactly young. He's like 70, 73, 74 years old now. So it's like he's got to get. I mean, I know Scorsese.
I don't think he is 70.
I think he is. I'm pretty sure he is.
I'm googling it right now.
All right.
He's exactly 70.
Aha! I knew it. I'm like, okay, so that gives him a little bit of time. But
and Avatar 4 doesn't come out till 29. I think
that's true. And if they finish filming and
because they're doing Avengers,
right.
Marvel has overtaken the.
Marvel is overtaken. They're like, we're taking the December slot. The May slot's not working for us anymore. We're doing the December slot. Oh man, this is interesting. Okay, this gives me a lot to think about. This gives me some hope for Cameron's future because I'm not gonna lie, Cameron only doing Avatar movies for the rest of his life. I was like, I don't know if I don't know if that's. I love the Avatar movies. Yeah, maybe finally, fingers crossed. Anyways,
4 is supposed to be the really good one that the studio gave no notes on, so
which is crazy too. But yeah, we'll get to more of that once. But like I said in the next one. But in the meantime, stay tuned for Talkin' Lost.